So
Yeah.
trauma is like, you're not your trauma.
Yeah.
You're affected by what happened to you, and to
Yes.
hold that differentiation is important.
And it's only the last few years as well. I found spirituality and
Yes.
kind of changed my whole life. I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I'm kind of really in the zone. And I love and now proving myself. And that's taken bloody years.
Right? He would get activated for something. Like sometimes it was a small thing I did, sometimes it was a big thing, sometimes I didn't even do anything. So he
Yeah.
was so volatile at times and so extreme. I remember watching his eyes.
Yeah.
Like when the shift happened in his eyes, I was like, oh shit, I am in trouble. And
Yeah.
I'm a runner today. I still run. And I was running back then, running through the house to try to get away from him. And he would call like, you cocksucker, you son of a bitch.
So today we have world-renowned Frank Anderson, and you're a trauma treatment expert, Harvard-trained psychiatrist and psychotherapist, author and global speaker. So, wow, what an impressive CV. And thank you for joining Mind Jump magazine.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. And it's beautiful that we can be connected across the world in this way in this time and age right now. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, thank you. And you're in LA at the moment, and you said you're moving and you've got quite a lot going on in your life. So we appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's all good, right? Even a lot of good is a lot.
Yeah,
Right?
so is it
Yeah.
absolutely is. And I'm going to talk about your book in a moment, but To Be Loved. Oh my goodness, I have to say, but you had me at hello when I started reading it. It was the first few pages. It's really difficult, isn't it? I've written a couple of books, and to try and
Mm,
get someone's attention even in the first few pages is really hard. And to
yeah.
be honest, I have to review and we edit a lot. And not many books pull you in, if I'm honest, but yours, literally the first few pages, it had me and I couldn't put it down. And I cried twice, and I am
Mm.
not really a crier, to be honest, unless it's a dog. So it was really, really amazing book. So I want to talk a little bit about your book a bit later, but you've been through some horrific times, and I want to talk about your backstory, and if you could tell us a little bit how you grew up, because this has sort of like impacted your whole life, really, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting you said that, Lisa, like, that it drew you in right from the beginning. When the publisher said, we wanted you to write a memoir, which I thought was crazy. Like, why would I write a memoir? Like, it didn't even, in the beginning, it didn't make sense to me. But when they said it, and I was like, oh, okay, I can tell my trauma story so that people can heal. Like, that
Yeah,
I can do, right?
yeah,
I instantly knew the opening line. It was so strange. I wasn't like before there was an outline, before there was anything. I was
yes,
like, you're not going to school today, Frankie. Like I just knew the story should start there because that was such a pivotal moment of my life. It was embedded in me. You're not going to school today, Frankie. I was 6 years old. I was in first grade,
yeah,
and they took me to this doctor in downtown Chicago. So it was like the big hospital, the scary hospital, not the local hospital.
yeah,
Something must be really wrong with me.
yeah,
Wow, what I wasn't sick. They didn't tell me what was going on. There was no discussion about it other than that. So it was so confusing
yeah,
and jarring. And it was like, you're not going to school today. And my whole life changed
yeah,
after that. My whole life changed after it was a moment, right? It was just a moment. And, as you know, I was in 6 years of weekly conversion therapy,
yeah,
to be someone other than I was. And I didn't know that. I was 6 years old. So I learned and my parents didn't know that that's what it was either.
yeah,
They didn't, nobody said, we want your son to go to conversion therapy because we caught him playing with a Barbie doll. Nobody said that,
yeah,
but they were just like, we want him to be better. We want him to be normal. We want him to have a good life. So they sent me well intended from their perspective,
Yes.
but it was this whole brainwashing of don't do this, don't be this, don't say this, don't act this way. I used to look at my uncles and like act like him, do what he does, say what
Yeah.
he does. So it was this whole, my mom will now say, I had no idea. I'm so sorry that's what that was, but I learned at a very early age to disconnect and suppress in order to not be hurt, in order to be loved,
Yeah.
So it opened that way. And I'm glad it hooked you because I was just so clear. This is how it's going to start.
Yeah. Amazing, as you say. It hooked me in, and you're like, I can't even imagine at 6 years old. I don't remember too much of being a 6 year old, but I know most of us are confused. You have no clue what you're doing, but my goodness, to go through that and to be taken to a hospital, and you're like, well, what's wrong with me? Why are you taking me here? What am I doing? It must have been terrifying.
And it was interesting. A couple things I'll say about it because first of all, I repressed so many memories
Yeah,
around therapy.
yeah,
Like I was there for 6 years once a week, and I have two memories. Like that blows me away, the
yeah,
capacity of the mind, right?
yes,
The mind was able to, I remember going in the beginning, I remember seeing his desk and drawing a picture of my family. And he
yeah,
asked me, who's this? Who's this? What's the dog's name? Like I drew a picture of the family. He asked me questions. I remember that, like I have that. 6 years later, towards the end of therapy, I
yeah,
remember playing with army men and battleships on the carpeting. Like, what the hell happened in all those other sessions? And the capacity of the mind to repress that is incredible. So
yeah.
I mean, it blows me away. And the other thing that was shocking was when I got accepted to medical school.
Mm,
And because I repressed, I didn't know what the name of the hospital was, anything. I repressed
yeah.
all that stuff. When I get my medical acceptance letter, my mom, out of the blue, says, "Oh, that's where we took you for psych testing when you were 6 years old." I was like,
Oh
"What?"
God.
Like I didn't know the medical school I got into
Yeah,
was the very place I went for psych testing as a 6 year old kid. And then flashed in my mind were those ink blot tests. Like that, like, tell me a story about this. What does this mean to you? Like then these images of the psych testing popped into my head that were repressed.
yeah,
It was just incredible what our mind is capable of doing to protect us from
yes,
overwhelming experiences.
yes. Oh my goodness. And even those images, do you feel though, going back to that hospital, um, I don't know if you believe in like kind of it was meant to be
Oh,
because it would bring back those memories.
100%.
Mm,
That's why I talk about it, because now as an adult, I'm like, there was not an ounce of coincidence here. That
yeah,
was totally supposed to happen. That was meant to be. Like it was all part of this larger plan that I was so unaware of. But it
yeah,
hit me in that moment. I keep talking about in the book these full circle moments. Like that was a full circle moment, right?
yeah,
It was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the medical school where I started this crazy journey in the first place, right? It was
yeah.
powerful. It really had impact.
Goodness. And how so from there you trained, and your relationship with your mum and dad, and I can't even imagine some of the words your dad used when he spoke
Yeah.
about you. I don't know if
Yes.
you can say them or not. And uh, I
Well,
thought,
I wrote them, so the world's going to know about them.
well,
So I can
if you don't
say
mind
them.
saying
I,
that, because I don't know how I would get over that. That would really physically I know they say sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. But words do hurt you. That
yeah.
would hurt me. I don't know how you got over that.
Well, it's interesting. So a couple, like, he would get activated for something. Like sometimes it was a small thing I did, sometimes it was a big thing, sometimes I didn't even do anything. So he
Yeah,
was so volatile at times and so extreme. I remember watching his eyes.
Yeah.
Like when the shift happened in his eyes, I was like, oh shit, I am in trouble. And
Yeah.
I'm a runner today. I still run. And I was running back then, running through the house to try to get away from him. And he would call like, you cocksucker, you son of a bitch, paranoid schizophrenic. Like he would scream all these things. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know what a paranoid schizophrenic is. Like
Yeah.
that, it sounds bad, but I
Yeah.
don't know what this is. So some of it was like he- the impact it had on me was I am horrible. That's the impact it had on me was I am bad.
Yeah.
I am a vile person, right? And so much of my life was deep down insecurity
Yeah.
of around who I am. Like I am a bad, horrible person. If your father says this about you, you must be horrible.
Yeah.
So I really internalized that for years and years and years. And then I had this contradictory striving for achievement to get his love.
Yeah.
So I become a Harvard trained psychiatrist on one hand,
Yeah.
and I'm deeply insecure and hate myself on another.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That
Absolutely
was the
get that.
paradox of it all,
Yeah.
was both were true,
Yeah.
you know? I have just recently, honestly, this is to probably within the last 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
I am no longer insecure. It's
It,
crazy. Like for most of my life, I've been insecure. Maybe people would know it. Maybe they wouldn't know it. I don't even know. Like, how could you be insecure? You're so successful. It was
yeah.
so pure. And now I can truly feel confident and secure. I know I'm a good person. I like
Yeah.
myself.
Yes.
You don't like me, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
But it's taken me so long.
Oh, bless you. I can feel like a real inner glow about you. It's really weird, like your aura, because I
Yeah.
can literally so resonate you. I not had the same journey as you, but had a similar one. And
Yes.
yeah, always trying to be something better to get approval and always trying to get approval. And it's only the last few years as well. I found spirituality and
Yes.
kind of changed my whole life. I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I'm kind of really in the zone. And I love and now proving myself, and that's taken bloody years.
Right? I was
Yeah,
like, oh my goodness. Like that's one of the things I get a little bit nervous about with the book. I was like, I've been in therapy for 33 years, right? I'm 60 years old. I don't want everyone to think, oh my gosh,
stop. What the hell? Can I just go back? You are not 60 years old. What
isn't
the?
it crazy? I'm
You're
60
not.
years old.
I thought
I
you
am.
look. My God, yeah. Wow, you look amazing. But bloody
And
hell.
I think it's because of all the healing I've done.
Do you know what? Yes,
I
yes.
do. Like
I
people who haven't seen me, like, Frank, you look younger. Like, did you have plastic surgery? Did you do Botox? And I'm like, no, no Botox.
about
But
40,
I
39, 40.
I know. And I think it's because I've released so much of the trauma energy,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
much of the trauma energy that I am more me and less burdened by trauma energy. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But so it's incredible. Like I am younger and freer and happier than I've ever been in my life. But I don't want people to think that everybody has to be in therapy for 33 years to heal their trauma. There are
Yeah.
different paths for different people. I do want everybody to know that trauma is, you can heal from trauma. Yes.
Yeah.
Different people have different paths. We can all heal. So that's important to me.
Yeah. What do you think though about because obviously you've got trauma and PTSD? What is the difference? Like,
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of people confuse trauma from PTSD, and I'll even mention complex PTSD, which
okay.
is relational trauma. So, like, trauma is what happened to you or what happens to you. Like, you went through an event and you experienced something. Like, this was traumatic. Like,
Yeah.
trauma is the what happened, whether it was a car accident or being in an earthquake or being sexually violated.
Yeah.
That's a trauma. It's an
Okay.
experience that's overwhelming
Yeah.
beyond your capacity to handle in the moment.
Okay. Okay.
Then there's the response to the trauma.
Right.
Trauma response is what PTSD is. Trauma response is what dissociation is. It's how you're coping and how you're managing
Yeah.
what happened to you.
Okay.
So most people confuse that and they
Yeah.
interchange them, right? And I have a list of, when I teach workshops, different types of trauma,
Yeah.
and one of the types of trauma is what we call complex PTSD
Yeah.
or relational trauma. This
Okay.
is when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, when your mother's depressed or your father is alcoholic, and you have this repeated relational violations, or you're bullied at school, or you're
Yeah.
dating somebody and it's an abusive relationship. Those are relational violations that are different than a car accident. They have a different
Yeah.
impact,
Okay.
right? So I really do specialize in complex PTSD or relational trauma. It's what I experienced, and it's what
Yeah.
most of my clients have experienced, even though some people have been in natural disasters or other types of trauma, right? But the
Yeah.
response is important. Do you get anxious? Do you shut down? Do you eat too much? Do you work too much? You cutting yourself. Like there's many different responses
Yeah.
to the trauma.
And as you say that like in the world, this you hear. I think years and years ago, you didn't hear so many, and you, as you say, you thought, "Well, am I not normal?" But now I think we are blessed in some ways to have the internet, to have more books, and to find out more about different people what they've gone through. And you're like, okay, you can relate to that, but which is amazing in some ways. I think it's opened a whole new field for us that we feel, oh, okay, I am normal, and I am, that someone else down the road has got it as well as people. They've gone through that trauma or that experience.
Well, and a big differentiation for me is I'm normal. What happened to me isn't,
Yes, yes,
right?
that's
I'm normal. What happened to me isn't. And people confuse it.
yeah,
I'm bad because of what happened to me. That's
yeah,
what I did. I'm bad because of what my dad said to
yeah,
me versus no, he was wrong to do that. And I was affected by
yeah,
what he said. There's nothing wrong with me. So
yeah,
trauma is like, you're not your trauma.
yeah,
You're affected by what happened to you. And to
yes.
hold that differentiation is important.
How though, because your traumas, I don't know how you forgave your dad.
Yeah.
And do you feel in order to heal the trauma, you have to let it go? What do you think, and how
A
do you do it?
great question. It's a great question. This is an area that is activating for a lot of people,
Yeah,
right? Because first of all, in culture and society, we're forced to forgive way prematurely, in my
yeah,
view,
okay,
right?
yeah,
Forgive, forgive, forgive. A lot of religious institutions, you need to forgive to move on. So
yeah,
I think in one hand, we're forced to
yes,
forgive prematurely. And I don't think that's helpful.
no,
Do you need to forgive in order to fully heal? No, I don't think that's true. I think it's a
mm,
choice. Forgiveness is a choice.
yeah,
The way I like to differentiate it is this. First, heal from what happened to you.
okay,
First, release the
yeah,
thoughts, the feelings, the physical sensations that you carry
hmm,
based on what happened to you. That's what I would say I call that the first phase of healing. I'm
okay,
no longer affected by being hit. I'm no longer affected by being violated or raped. The car accident doesn't bother me anymore. So
yeah,
first we heal from what happened to us. First part of healing.
yeah,
Second part is, do I choose to work on the feelings that I have about the person who harmed me?
yeah,
So that's the relational piece. That's the second dimension of healing that I talk about. And
yeah,
that's where forgiveness comes in or not, choosing to confront the person or not, you
yeah,
know. choosing to love the person who harmed you or not. So that's a second dimension of healing. And, I was, for me, fortunate enough to have, and I really do think this was a gift, to have powerful healing moments at the end of my father's life with
Yeah.
him, and recently powerful healing moments with my mother, who was kind of the non-protecting parent, right?
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity with both of them to truly be able to release what I'm caring about them. So the forgiveness was more about me
Yeah.
no longer carrying my feelings about them.
Yeah.
They also had their own process. Like
Yes.
my dad was able to acknowledge and basically say, I'm sorry. And
Yeah.
so did my mother. So that process was healing for them,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
that's it. But what about you?
So yeah, and I feel like I was able to let go of what I'm carrying.
Yeah.
I was angry at my father for years and years and years and years and years. I hated him up until like 3 years ago.
Wow.
So I was carrying a lot of hatred
Yeah.
towards him for what he did to me for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't hold that anymore. I
No.
love him. I love him,
Yes.
and to love someone who harms you is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. For me, it's been the ultimate. I am no longer affected by this because I can love you even though you harmed me.
Yeah.
I am so above it that it doesn't affect me anymore. And
Yeah.
that's freeing.
Yes. And you could, well, as you say, you can see, like, wow, like, amazing how something so
Right.
horrendous you've forgiven. And maybe that is the answer. For, as you say, forgiveness just releases everything you've been holding on to, all the pain. Because don't you
Yeah,
find I always believe that stress and trauma and like it causes illness and makes you just so
totally.
unwell.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. We know cortisol, the stress chemical, has toxic effects on the brain and the body.
Yeah.
And when you're holding that trauma energy, it's got to have a negative effect on you. How could it
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you got to say and have your peace with your father because, as you say, I think maybe that was the closing part you needed to move on and to write this book.
Right. And it was fascinating. I didn't expect this, but I wrote the book in the last 4 chapters were written in real time.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it was
Yeah.
happening while I was writing the book. So
Yeah.
there was an immediacy to it. I'd have an experience. I'd go home and visit, take care of him, and then I'd write about it. We'd have
Yeah.
this confrontation. I wanted to, get him help, like an aide to come in and help my mother take care of him. And then he shot it down, and then I'd write about it. You know what I mean? So like and his death and his funeral, planning his funeral, for example. I
Yeah.
was able to write about it as it was happening, which was really an incredible
Yeah.
experience. There's one thing to write in retrospect, and there's another thing to write when it's happening.
Happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Don't
was
you
that
think
was so
so?
powerful.
That was so meant to be because you say when I was reading it, that's what I say. Everyone, you could get this book. It's just incredible, and you can feel your pain, the trauma. You can feel everything while you're reading it. It's like it's coming alive, like, and you can. It's like a movie, and it's just incredible. And I'm glad for you in some ways, as you say, you got your closure and you got to see your dad and say goodbye to your dad. Um,
Yeah, and
and
and to feel love
yeah.
for him. Like I never thought that was going to be possible.
No, I couldn't even imagine, as you say, when you're reading it, that how you could forgive your dad for the things that he hurt you physically and the abuse you got. As you say, you had some nice times, but you also had
Yeah,
some bloody awful times.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just incredible. But some of the traumas and that, how do you think, like, so for anyone watching and that, is there any advice you could give that this maybe someone is in trauma and they're like, God, I don't know what to do. How can I get the next step? What could I do?
Yeah, so one of the things that is I'm doing that I feel is important is because I've been a trauma therapist since 1992, so a really long time. I've been in this field for a long time,
Yeah,
and I've done many different types of therapy and models of therapy and training
yeah,
around trauma healing. And I do feel that therapy's limited in a way that everybody doesn't have access to it.
yeah,
And in order to heal trauma, we have to step outside of the therapy office to some degree to give people who don't have the means or
yes.
the access how to heal. So I've been working on kind of developing some like important steps towards healing. I just opened a trauma institute,
Okay.
for example, to help people who don't have resources to be able to heal from trauma in a different
Yeah,
way. So I'm really translating a lot of the psychotherapy knowledge that I've learned to the
yes.
general public. And there is a way, from my belief, first you need to, what I call the four T's, right?
Yeah.
Thank your trauma response. And
Okay.
people get really confused by that. What do you mean, thank your trauma response? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
thank the anxiety, thank the depression, thank the drinking, thank the suicidal feelings, because they're here to help you. They're trying their best to protect you,
yes. Okay.
right? So
Yeah,
first, thank those responses instead of get rid of them or hate them,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
Thank them. So, and then those parts start relaxing and
Okay.
calming down because they feel heard and appreciated for what they're trying to do.
Okay.
Even
Yeah,
if, even if they're ineffective, they're
yeah,
still, so appreciate your response.
yeah,
Trust that you have the wisdom inside of you to heal.
yeah.
Everybody has the wisdom. You don't need an expert to tell you what's best for you.
Yes.
Trauma violates your trust and wisdom.
Yeah.
So gain access again to trusting that you know what's right. Because we disconnect from
Yes.
our intuition in trauma.
We
So
do.
it's reconnect with your wisdom. The third step is transforming the trauma, which is really the where the first component of healing comes in, as I talked about. It's
Yeah.
the experience needs to be witnessed. It needs to
Yes.
be shared fully, not just the story.
Okay.
Thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. The part who holds the trauma needs to share it.
Okay.
Once it shares it, a corrective experience needs to happen. So the part needs to experience something healing and corrective.
Yeah.
Once those two things happen, then release is possible.
Okay.
Then release is possible. Once that's fully shared, once
Yeah.
there's a corrective experience, it's gotten its own healing, then you can release.
Yes.
That's where I have the fourth T, take back. That's where taking back your power comes in. You can
Yes.
take back your power. You can choose to forgive or not. It's your
Yeah.
choice,
Your
but
choice.
you're operating in the world from a different place.
Yeah.
You've done that. So that's kind of, and I'm really working on this trauma institute, trying to teach people,
Yes.
how to do as much of this as possible on their own. And then when you do need to get help,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I hold around it.
No, I love that, and that so resonates and makes complete sense to me. It really does. But you said when you say share it,
Yeah.
who would you say you share it with? Just with a friend, or just yourself? Maybe writing it down. What would you?
A great question. There's many different ways to share. Like some
Hmm.
of the sharing is with a therapist.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
of the sharing is with an intimate partner.
Yeah.
Some of the sharing is with a close friend. Some of the sharing is through writing. Like
Yes.
writing, it was very therapeutic for me to
Yeah.
write, so some
Absolutely.
people share through journaling. Some of it's internal. So the
Hmm.
child part of you shares with the adult part of you now. What
Yeah.
happened? So when I say sharing, it doesn't mean burden people or make them responsible
Okay.
for you. It means share your experience and have somebody validate it. I hear that happened. I hear that makes sense to me. Like that, it's not their responsibility to fix it.
Yes.
It's, is there somebody who can listen? The witnessing, the
Yeah.
sharing is about being heard and validated,
Yeah.
not fixed.
Not fixed. Yeah, yeah.
And
And
it's not just the story. People get stuck on the story. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's what were you thinking at the time?
yeah,
What emotions were swirling through? What was going on in your body?
yeah,
So you're sharing the whole experience, not just the story.
yeah. Love that. Thank you. And I totally agree. And for me as well, like writing my own book. You don't have to share it with anyone, do you? Like, I have my books, but someone at home, maybe they just want to write, as you say, their own book, and it really helped me. I was crying at my own book, and
Right? Yes,
it was so
yes, it's
healing.
very therapeutic. It's very
Yeah,
therapeutic to be
yeah,
able to do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It's wonderful. And tell us a little bit about your life now, because you've got two children, and you seem really happy. Is that the case? Because you just want that like lovely ending and a happy story. Is it for you? Are you happy? You're in a good
I-
place?
I'm so happy. I'm in a place that's so much better than I ever thought it would be. My life is I mean, that doesn't mean we still don't have difficulty. Of course I do. Like,
Yeah,
happiness is not the end goal in
no,
my experience. Happiness is part of the journey. When I was more cut off from my trauma, I was more cut off from my joy, you
yeah,
know. So I have more feelings and more access to
yes,
all of it. Do you know what I mean?
yes,
So I have a pretty amazing life, and I'm doing some impactful things in a way that I never thought would be possible to
yeah,
help people heal. I found, like, when I released my trauma, I found my purpose, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
uh, which is to help people heal from trauma. But I don't think I'll ever be done healing. I'm a heck of a lot further along than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And, I just had a big, powerful moment with my mom last week, for
Really?
example, where she was able to say, I'm sorry, I didn't protect you. You were hurt and I didn't protect you, and I'm sorry. And that was just last week. That was a whole new layer of
Yeah.
healing with her that I didn't think was possible. So I don't think it ever stops. I think
No. And how's your mum? Because obviously, as you said, she's on her own. Your dad's passed and is,
she's struggling. I mean, she's really struggling. He was, the most, it was so clear to all me and my siblings, he was the most important person in her life,
yeah,
to the point that, at times she chose her husband over her children,
yeah,
right? And their safety. So she's struggling. I mean, for her to be in life without him is
yeah.
very hard for her.
Sure.
And the thing that I'm grateful for, like, all of my siblings and I all know she loves us.
Yes.
As much
Yeah,
as she's fallible, as much as she made mistakes, we feel her love, you
yeah,
know. So I just want to help her,
yeah,
as much as I can,
yeah,
uh, get through this very complicated journey. Like, having me tell my story is impacting her negatively. It's hard for her. Like, she's like, you're telling your story. I didn't want to tell my story.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I understand that. I understand that, you
Does
know.
she, how was she though? Because as you say, I know, and I've told my story in my book, and
Yeah.
you don't want to hurt your family or
Right.
friends. At the same time, I I feel, and you may be probably the same, I feel I was put on this planet to
Yeah.
help others through my story and what happened to me.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And, I said this to her last week, which was hard for her to hear, but harder for me to say. Well, I don't know. It was hard for me to say and hard for her to hear.
yeah,
I said, I know this is hurting you. I did everything in my power to write the truth
yeah,
in a kind way.
find a way. Yeah,
And I know this will impact you. And I'm choosing me over you in this moment. I
wow.
haven't done that before, but I'm choosing to tell my story. If you hate me and never want to see me again, that's your decision. I hope that's not true, but
Yeah.
I'm choosing me and my truth. And I hope you and I can work through that. It was
Thank you. That's
very,
powerful. That because you didn't know how that's going to go. My God,
No,
that's a big thing you've done there as well. Wow,
huge,
scary.
huge, huge. Because, most of my life I chose my mother over me.
Yeah,
Most of my life I chose acting a certain way so I would get love. Like this is a very powerful for me to choose
yeah,
myself. I went, and part of me was like, oh, Frank, are you being selfish? This is horrible. And the other part of me was like, no, this is not about selfishness. This is about helping and
yeah,
heal.
yes,
And I'll support her
yeah,
in her process too.
yeah. And I think you have to think about the bigger picture, don't you? What you were actually put on this earth to do. It isn't
Yeah.
about you and your mum as such. It's more, so much more than that, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So much. It's bigger than me. It's
Yes,
bigger
it
than
is.
her. And it
Yeah,
is. It
it
is
is.
bigger than both of us. This is not about her and I, even though it also is about her and
Is
I,
yeah, yeah. But
but
it's.
it has a larger, yeah, it has a larger purpose.
Do you think though? You were. I always felt I was put on a planet, and the things I went through, I had to go through, and I agreed to it, and that's why I'm here to
Yeah.
try and change people's lives and help people. And I feel the same for you. I feel that's why you were put on this planet to go
Yeah.
through the. I mean, as you say, if you could tell that 6-year-old boy this is what you'd be doing, it might have, like me and my kid that
Well,
would have helped, but you don't know at that age.
you
And
don't know at the time. And I do firmly believe that I, my belief is I chose this family and I
yes,
chose this experience
yeah,
to learn about trauma through
yeah,
living it. And I believe my dad chose to be him
yeah,
to also help me tell the story. Like
yes,
I feel like this book is a joint effort. Like
yeah.
I couldn't have learned this without his contribution,
No, that's right. If your mum and
even
dad
at the time it was negative, right?
That's right. If your mum and dad were a different mum and dad, you would not have experienced this. You couldn't have told this story.
No,
And I think you had to be very, they gave this to you, I feel, this mission,
right.
because you're a strong person, but you had to experience this. And they knew the little Frankie, the little 6-year-old boy, like at the time you think, oh God, I could just give him so much love. But you are now, I know you are healing that trauma.
Yeah.
But that it's just, as you say, it's so difficult, but it's so amazing what you've done and how you've changed, sure, many people's lives. And this book will change so many people's lives when they read it.
I hope so. I really do hope that's the case. Yes.
It totally will. I feel it. I a bit like the angels and spirits, but that's what
Yes.
I
Yes.
feel. That's what I feel.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things. I was very intellectual and cut off from the spiritual side of things before. The more I've healed, the more
Yes.
I can access that which is beyond me
Yeah.
and get the larger message out to the world because it's not my message. It's a larger
Yeah.
message.
That's it. No, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad you and your mum is okay, is okay, and you chose you, which is
Yeah.
amazing again, because that's hard to do. But
Very hard to do. Right.
that's
Very.
incredible.
Yeah.
And lastly, I just want to know, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, and we might have to cut it out, but you might have some things in the TV or something coming out. Are you able to tell us this or the future?
At this point, I can talk about
Okay.
it. It's in the early stages of things, but I'm so thrilled and excited. I kind of knew this was another thing. I had this feeling like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a movie. Oh my gosh, this is going to
Yeah.
be a movie, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a company out in LA. It's called Trauma Informed Media,
Yes.
right? And we're bringing trauma content to Hollywood, which is super important.
Yeah.
But through my connections out here now,
Yeah.
of mine who's a producer introduced me to this really wonderful woman who has written and directed many movies in the past, and she read the book and loved it, and she wants to write the screenplay and direct the movie
Brilliant.
version, the movie adaptation of To Be Loved.
Yeah.
So we're just at the very early stages. We have an agreement in place, and it's
Yes.
huge to find somebody who's interested in doing that. So now we're in the, we're trying to raise money and to, there's a selling it to you have to
Yeah.
sell it to the agents, you have to create the screenplay. There's a whole process,
Yeah. Yeah.
that goes around it. She said something like 70% of movies don't ever make it out
Yes.
there. She said, I don't pick up projects that don't make it. So I
Yeah.
want you to know I'm gonna make it. I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's a process. She said it's
Yeah.
a process. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. But I felt so relieved and relaxed when she was willing to take this on, because it's a way for me to get the message out to the world in a bigger
Yeah.
way.
To be
That's what
honest,
it feels like.
as you
Yeah.
say, your book can help so many people, but
Yeah.
having it on screen,
Yeah.
literally you've got the world at your feet and they
Yes.
see and feel, and I think is so important. And I believe that as well. I've always thought that it's really weird, like, don't you? I know my life's going to be made into a movie one day. I know, and I can feel it with you too. I
Oh, thank
just
you.
know,
Thank you so much.
It's
Yeah.
weird, isn't it? I
Isn't
don't
it a
know.
weird? It's a weird knowing. It's like not your knowing. It just comes from somewhere else.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
comes from
and
somewhere else. So
oh,
thank
that's
you.
amazing. And I think people, I'll tell you what, I watched Is it Pursuit of Happiness, because that's similar to sort of some of my life. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Will Smith, and that always kept me going. And I think maybe with your movie, with that young children watching it, they can see how your life's progressed and how you've completely changed and lost 30 years. Like, even on Facebook, just like you look and feel amazing. And your life, you've got the two boys now, so they're in their 20s, but
Yeah.
wow, you're happy and you're on the road to helping others. Amazing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It feels really good. It feels really good to give back. Like it's good that I'm at the other end of it and
Yes.
that I can give back in a different kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely. And if
Yeah.
anyone is in that state now, is there any like a tip or advice you could just give them on our ending? Is there?
Yeah, well, you know, I would say, yeah, really, I would say healing is possible for
Yeah,
sure. I would say be aware that we've all harmed
yeah,
and have been harmed.
yes,
And that in order for trauma to truly heal, we have to acknowledge both sides of us as
yeah.
well as the people who have harmed us.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's been amazing. It's been really lovely to talk to you, and spiritually as well. I just feel very connected. It's very, very, it's been a lovely conversation. Really enjoyed it. And I'd say to anybody, just go and get your book. It was, as I say, you had me at hello. It was just,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
it's
it. And
incredible.
all that you're doing in the world also to
Thank
bring
you.
this mission of healing. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. And anyone who wants to find you, or like you said, you're writing the trauma and how to help people. Is there anywhere they can find you? Or is there a website or?
Yes. Well, probably the easiest is website, which is frankandersonmd.com.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then all the social media channels, I'm
Yes.
most active, I guess, on Instagram, but
Yeah.
Frank_Anderson MD. I'm all over. You go to my website and you'll find all the places.
You'll find. Brilliant. Oh, well, good luck with everything. I know the book's going to do tremendously well. It's amazing. And
Thank
good luck with the movie. I know that's going to come out. I'm going to come and watch it. I just,
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I
I
really
know it.
appreciate it.
And thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I know it's been an incredible journey, and I know it's not finished, but it's a lovely ending to a wonderful journey, a difficult journey. But yeah, you were here for a purpose, and thank you.
Thank you.